Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon,
And I'm Aiara.
and welcome to the Mustacast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Like I said last episode, we're gonna start off with Free Palestine. Currently, some of the momentum that was built is dying down, which is exactly what they want. They want us to forget what's happening so that they can continue to do it. And our government is quite not only not helping, but they're helping the wrong side, and it's sad to see. Um,
Hmm.
and there are some other things that we're going to be talking about this episode that are uh, connected to the Israel Palestine conflict. So we'll talk more about it later, and how my understanding
Yep.
of it has grown. So uh, Thanksgiving was the Thursday before we're recording this, which is Monday, but it'll be uploading exactly a week after that Thursday. So it's a week after Thanksgiving.
Yahoo.
How was your Thanksgiving, Aya?
Pretty good. My family doesn't celebrate on Thanksgiving Thursday. We do our stuff on Friday for a myriad of reasons. But we had
That
fun.
makes sense.
It was our turn because we're a relatively big family. We always rotate which aunt and uncle or whatever hosts, and it was our turn this year, and that was fun. My mom had been prepping for like 3 days, and like it was a whole bunch of stuff. But we had a good time. We had a good time.
You help cook anything?
Yeah. So me personally, I just helped with like prep, like cutting vegetables and stuff. But we had like brisket and smoked turkey wings and ribs and all kinds of delicious. Um, Nobody brought anything, so I'm glad that what we cooked was enough. Because like I said, we're a pretty big family, and I got to see some cousins I haven't seen in a really long time, which was really fun. But yeah, it was nice. I had a nice Thanksgiving.
Cool. I went out to Atlanta to visit my father and my three younger brothers for this Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Um, Not as close to Atlanta as I thought, though. They live out in like a county called Covington, which is like an
Oh.
hour outside of Atlanta. I thought they lived so
Oh
much
wow.
closer than they made it seem. But yeah, they're out in Georgia. And
Mm.
yeah, because we were so far from the city, I didn't go into the city. My I did go with my mom and sister, but they didn't come to Thanksgiving. They were just out in Atlanta doing whatever. Um,
Mm.
so I was staying at their place. They have a really nice house out there in the counties. It's a great little
Ooh.
house. First floor
Nice,
only.
nice.
There's an attic where one of my brothers are in, but it's mostly one floor. Um,
Ah.
but yeah, it's a nice place. And Thanksgiving was good. The food was good. We went over my father's fiance's friend's house, and the food was so good. It was great. Some amazing food.
Nice.
You know, the best thing at Thanksgiving for me, at least, is always Big Macaroni and cheese. My favorite thing. It's so good.
Oh yeah,
Um,
real.
yeah, and what was it? There was some mushroom gravy. I don't really eat mushrooms like that, but mushroom gravy was fire. It was
Mm.
pretty fire. Uh, but yeah, I got my little brother, my youngest brother,
Mm.
a PS5 Slim.
Nice.
He's gonna be coming out here for Christmas, but naturally, like didn't want to get him a console, then have him have to take it all the way back home on a plane. So, and
Right.
plus, naturally, he would want it sooner rather than later. And they also don't.
Right.
We've celebrated Christmas, but technically we don't celebrate Christmas because my family's Muslim. But we
Ah,
we just do the gift giving, but that's about it. But
got
since
you.
we don't really celebrate, it didn't matter when I gave him the gift.
Right.
So and he'll be come back out here, and he'll probably get some games for it.
Nice.
But yeah, it was dope giving him that PS5. So for a long time, they didn't know the password to his PlayStation account because they made it when he was younger, and my
Mm.
father isn't good with keeping track of that type of stuff. And my brothers who helped him make it were also young, so they weren't, and it also wasn't their account, so they didn't care about keeping track of it.
Right.
But luckily, it was attached. You could have a recover me email and phone number to help you, recover the password or change the password. Luckily,
Mm.
the phone number that it was attached to, not only do they still have it, but it is now the phone number that specifically said younger brother uses for his personal phone that he just got
Oh,
recently. That used to be
nice.
that used to be my father's phone number. Now he has a Georgia phone number, but my brother still uses that Baltimore phone number for
Mm.
his personal number. So luckily, when we were looking for it, they give you a little hint like, okay, it's this number, but they only give you the last two digits, and I was
Right.
like, do any of you guys have a phone number to end with 24? And he was like, no. And then he stopped and I was like, oh, wait, my phone number ends with the 24. And we were able to change the password to something that he remembers. And now they have access to an email that was long lost because they didn't know the password to it. But now he has access to his all of his stuff now, as long as he can remember the password. So
Nice.
it's all
Very
good.
nice.
And now he has
It's all good,
now
man.
he has another email attached to it and access to the other email. So he overall everything's nice and tidy. But also the P Slim, P
Right.
Small Slim is. I feel like people kept making it seem like it's not that much smaller than the original. It's so much smaller.
Oh wow.
It's so much smaller. It looks really nice. And if I didn't already have the original, which I want, I would have got the Slim. It's nice.
Real.
And I know he's happy. It came with a digital code for Spider-Man 2, so he hopped right into that. And I
Ooh.
signed into my account, downloaded Mortal Kombat, got some of my money's worth finally, and played with him, and finally used Omni Man, which is he's fun. But yeah, it was
Nice.
fun. I'm mad. I had this good combo when I first played, and I'm mad. I should have kept up with my training. I should have kept practicing because I had this one combo down, and then I went back into play, and I was like, dang, I forgot the combo. I barely remember how to play this game. But yeah, Thanksgiving was good. Um,
Good.
but yeah, what media are we consuming over Thanksgiving? A little short break from work.
Uh, not much. I've been trying to catch up on my game backlog. So I played a little more Metal Gear. I made it to the third room. Be proud of me. I finally did it.
You made it to the basement.
I made it to the
Oh wait, no,
basement.
the third room is the tank room. Did you go? Are you in the tank room or did you go down the elevator?
I think I went down the elevator. I
Okay.
think, as far as I can remember. Yeah. I started. I say I'm trying to make my way through my game backlog. I've been playing Nier Automata again to try and really 100% it for real this time.
Yeah, I still got that
Uh,
game in a case sitting in a drawer under my Xbox. I gotta play it eventually once I have time.
so cold and lonely and afraid. But yeah, there's that. I started this new game because it's relatively short called Grease. I think it's Gris. And that's really nice. It's a beautiful game. Kind of difficult, even though it's like marketed as a laid back like experience kind of game. It's I'm struggling with it a little bit, but I think it's because like I haven't been in a puzzle game oriented mindset in a really long time. Been playing a lot of action games lately. Um, Cult of the Lamb, I'm getting back into a little bit, and Minecraft. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft these past couple days. I don't know what's. I'm in one of those moods. Like you know how you'll like stop playing Minecraft for like years or like months at a time, and then you're like, I want to play
Yeah,
some
I
Minecraft,
definitely know what
and then
it's like to not play Minecraft for years because I don't play it.
well, there you have it. Like sometimes I'll fall into these moods. Like, man, I haven't played Minecraft in a really, really long time. I'm gonna start a world, and that's what I've been doing. But it's modded Minecraft to make it a little, at least a little more interesting, and that's been fun. I need to get a new hard drive for my computer like immediately, because it's chugging really bad, and I know it's not like a thing of my computer not being strong enough. It's the fact that it's 2 gigabytes away from being full
Maybe
completely.
maybe I'm just not privy, but I feel like other than like Roblox, not a lot of developers have tried to like mimic Minecraft. Because I feel like there's
Yeah,
a
it's
version of Minecraft that could exist that I would like a lot, but no
mm,
one's made it yet.
real. And then Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, of course. Who hasn't watched it? Liked it a lot, but we'll talk about that more later.
Oh yeah.
That's all I've got though.
You know, like I said, played a little bit of Mortal Kombat 1. It was fun. Played characters I didn't usually play. I usually play Sub Zero, and I played a little bit of Reptile, but I tried out some other characters. Um, Also, playing Metal Gear Solid 1 right before I left town. I sat down to play it on like the Wednesday or Tuesday before, and what is it? I got to. I'm trying to think what I did. I did the first Sniper Wolf boss. Um, yeah, no, because well, I'm trying to remember the order of operations. Yeah, because I knew it was coming up. What was coming up, and yeah, it was the Sniper Wolf part. I went back, got the Sniper rifle, came back, fought her real quick, and now some other stuff is happening that I don't want to say because I want to spoil it for you. But yeah, fun game.
Okay.
How did you fare when you were playing it? Did you do better? Did you learn?
I'm learning. It's a process.
Did you crawl under the tank?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't remember because this was like 2 days ago.
Yeah. Eventually, you come back to that area, and I feel like once you reach, like in the section I was at, I had to come back to the area to go and grab the sniper rifle. So
Mhm.
the reality is, the like paths that these AI walk are so simple because it's an old game that
Right.
once you figure it out, you could easily game the system and very
I did.
easily sneak past them once you figure out they're like a I forget what they call
There.
it. I forget. There's a
Mm,
specific term for it, but yeah, they're like routine. Their walk cycle or
yeah.
whatever.
Patrol. Yeah. I did something silly. In trying to get to the tank room. So I got caught like in the second room of the game where you're trying to get down there. I got caught by like I think the one of the guards that like patrols around the edges of the compound. And then there's this like storage unit towards where the elevator is, like the elevator you come in at. And I just circled around that like 3 times and he lost me. And it was so insane because
Yeah,
he just
that's a
wandered back
classic.
to where he came from. And I'm like, that should not have worked.
It's a
I feel
classic
like
Metal
I
Gear thing.
cheated. Mm.
Um, but yeah, I on the plane ride to and fro, I watched Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. My first Wes
Ooh,
Anderson film. It was good. It was. I want to watch it again because obviously I was watching on my laptop and
right.
the quality wasn't great because of the airplane Wi-Fi. So I want to watch it again on my big 4K TV because I'm like it was visually confusing, not in a bad way, but like it looks really pretty. But when you look at it, you can't help but wonder how did they do that? Because it's like a combination of like kind of like painted backgrounds with live action actors as well as actual like an actual set, and it's hard to tell
Right.
where the painted background and the actual set begins and ends.
Hmm.
It's very interesting. It's very visually very pretty. It's set in the I think the like the 50s, so it has that
Yeah.
kind of like aesthetic with a lot of bright yellows and like powder blues and stuff like that.
Right.
It's it's a very pretty movie, and the story was real fun. Yeah, I just need to watch it again. I'll probably watch it with somebody sometime soon.
I was about to say I need to watch Asteroid City because I watched the Grand Budapest
Yeah,
Hotel
I
and
need to
loved
watch
it.
that. I know that's on. It's still on Max, isn't it?
Mhm, I
Yeah,
think so.
I need to watch that soon. Now that I've seen Astro City, I'm about to start watching every Wes Anderson film ever made.
No, for
Did
real.
he?
It's like you.
I know he directed some like, if I'm not mistaken, he directed some claymation films. Did he do Isle of Dogs?
Yeah, he did Isle of Dogs and then he did what is it called? Fantastic Mr.
Yeah, I've seen
Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox, so I guess technically this is my second Wes Anderson film. Fantastic Mr. Fox is great. I think I've saw it twice. It's a good movie. Or I saw like half of it the first time, and then sometime like last year I watched it in its entirety. It's real good.
Mm,
But also found out that Batman: A Brave and Bold is still on. It's still on Max. At one point
really?
they said they were taking it off. I think they might have actually taken it off, but they added it back. I guess. So
Mm,
I guess I'm finally gonna finish that since it's there. I need to finish it before it's gone. Um,
right. For real this time.
and I because I was fully prepared to buy the Blu-ray so I could finish watching it. But now that it's on
Right.
Max, I'm gonna save my money. Um, Still watching Batman. I'm on season 3 now, the where the art style changes.
Mm,
And it's it could be jarring for people who haven't seen it before. But obviously, I watched Batman when I was a kid, so I've seen all these like not all these episodes, but a decent amount of them.
right.
And but yeah, the art style isn't bad. Some of the changes in the character designs aren't great. Like for example, I don't like the way they changed the Joker, but I do like pretty much all the other characters changing their designs. I like Batman's. I prefer his design from the first 2 seasons, but his design now isn't bad. I like Robin, or I
Hmm.
like Batgirl's design change because he changed to what is probably my favorite Batgirl design, um,
Ooh.
where she's wearing mostly black, but her gloves, her boots, and her bat symbol are yellow, and the inside of her cape is also yellow. Um, but yeah, Batman's good. The first 2 episodes have been real good so far.
Slay.
Let's see what else I got. Spy Family started making more of an effort to catch up on that because the
Mm-hmm.
second season's airing currently. Um, Watch like 3 or 4 episodes. It's a good show. Um, JJK man. Um, actually, that's a good transition actually because we're gonna talk about Jujutsu Kaisen. One, it's good. Um, I see. The thing is, I some people, and they're not wrong necessarily, say that it's going to go down as one of the greats. There's only one way to objectively rank things, because the reality is when you rank stuff, there's no such thing as really doing it objectively. The only way that you can do it objectively is if you consider only how the mass public reacts to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The impact that it has, basically. Like Dragon Ball Z, whether you think it's not that great because the story, isn't like super deep or whatever, doesn't matter, because the impact it has on the world and the entirety of anime and manga is too substantial to even try and say that there's any anime that rivals it other than like One Piece or like Sailor Moon or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the only way to try to objectively rank things. So in that sense, absolutely, JJK is going to go down as one of the greats, because somebody who's currently reading the manga and is fully caught up, there's a bunch of hype and dope stuff coming up, especially when it comes to battle shonen specifically, when it's just about the fights. Also, the beginning of season 2 is probably the best the storytelling will ever get, because from there on it just becomes this big tournament arc, and I'm pretty sure the manga is getting close to wrapping up. So I like JJK. It's going to go down as one of the greats due to like the impact it has on total populace, but overall I don't think it's that special or that good to me personally. I like it, I enjoy it, but like I'm not going, man, this is one of the greats, this is going to be like top 10 for me. Like, no, maybe top 50, maybe top 30 or something, I don't know, but I'm not going to say it's like up there for me. It's still fun though. But yeah, I say all that to say we're going to talk about the working conditions at MAPPA. And the working conditions at MAPPA are trash. So people have been criticizing the quality of the animation from episode 14 specifically, and I agree. It wasn't, up to snuff. It's this thing that you see happen every now and again because of usually, I can only assume, the working conditions where it happened. There's a notorious episode of Naruto where Naruto's fighting pain, where the animation looks like this, and people argue whether or not it was a time thing or if it was just the animator's style. If it's his style, it's a style of animation I don't like, where the animation, for the sake of showing speed and movement, the animation is super simplified. I'm sure you've seen stuff like it before.
Yeah, like spare frames.
I'm personally am not a fan of that for long periods of time. Like you said, smear frames. When you do it very quickly for a quick second or like 30 seconds or something like that, makes sense. It's really cool to show that speed in that moment, and that is the best way to do it efficiently. But to have an entire episode where the animation looks like that, personally, I just don't enjoy the way that looks. That's just me. Clearly, it's not just me, actually, based on how many people criticize it. But there's also a good chance that, and most likely that this is just down to the fact they didn't have enough time to do it properly. And an animator at MAPPA actually tweeted about how disheartened they were by these statements of people not liking it. And as a result, a bunch of animators over in Japan started coming out with stories about the poor working conditions of the industry. And a lot of them were immediately taken down. So there's also rumors of a potential walkout by the production committee. So maybe it's finally time for that animator strike we were talking about last episode.
No, for real.
And for them to strike for the time and money they deserve, because we all love animation and we all wanted to continue thriving. And we'll talk even more about animation in a minute. Naturally, this is the animation segment. Of course, we're going to talk more about animation. But there's a lot of really good animation happening, especially I feel like since the pandemic, just things have really been elevated. We're getting a lot more adult animation specifically that isn't just like comedy, and usually animation that they make, the big ones that they put a lot of money into is usually for kids, and that's starting to change. But for that to change, we also need better working conditions for us to keep getting that stuff. But yeah, moving on to Marvel's What If. There was a trailer. I sent it to you, I think. Did I?
You did.
Okay, did you watch it?
I did.
Okay, so I'm realizing, because I meant to check my notes again, because I got a lot of really good notes that I really wouldn't do out. But the one thing I forgot to flesh out was the What If section, because there's like an episode list out, and I meant to look up those episode lists and add them to my notes. So I'm gonna look it up right now real quick. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So, for What If Season 2, we have What If Nebula joined the Nova Corps? What If Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? Which is the episode that interests me the most because it's a
Hmm.
version of the Avengers that was started in like the mid 20th century or something. Like instead of it being it's Black Panther's father, T'Chaka, when he was Black Panther. It's the
Oh.
it's the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym. It's what is it? The Winter Soldier, Bucky, taking the Cap role, and some other people I can't remember, but it's really cool. It's like a version of the team that would have existed in like the 70s or 50s or something. I don't know. It's back in the day, and that's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, no, because I'm stupid. Peter Quill is a kid who is Star Lord, so this takes place in like the 80s.
Ah.
So yeah, it's like the Avengers if they were came about in the 80s instead of the
Gotcha.
2010s.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Episode 3 is What If Kaori Reshaped the World, which is an original character I believe they're creating for What If,
Oh.
who seems to have some type of magical, maybe potential multiversal type abilities that I have a feeling they're probably planning on bringing into the live action universe and getting into this big multiverse thing that they're trying to do. Episode 204, uh, What If Hela Found the Ten Rings? 5, What If Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster, which this one looks like it's a Mad Max kind of parody, where it's a bunch of different
Right.
superheroes in this race on the Grandmaster's planet. Um, Episode 6, What If Happy Hogan Saved Christmas? Episode 8, What If Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? What If the Avengers assembled in 1602? And
Hmm.
the last episode, What If Strange Supreme intervened? Which is probably going to be the big final crossover episodes that they did in the first season. So I'm actually excited
Right.
for this because it looks like they're actually doing interesting stuff. What If is the door open for them to do whatever they want. They can do a bunch
Right.
of really interesting and dope things with What If. But the first season, everything they did, a lot of it wasn't that interesting. It was kind of boring. There were a couple interesting ones, but most of them were kind of boring. And it was sad to see. But I
Yeah.
feel like all of the What Ifs in this one are a little bit more interesting to me. And hopefully they continue to make them more interesting as the series continues. Um, but they're going to be releasing one episode every day for 9 days when it comes out. So that's
Ooh,
cool.
nice.
Um, let's see. When does it come out? Sometime in December. I can't remember when. But like I said, what they're doing with What If is interesting. But I feel like what they're doing with What If is what the MCU should have done as a whole after Endgame. Like
Ah.
they're currently setting up this huge multiversal story, but everything they've done
Hmm.
with the multiverse so far has been boring as hell. And that's the problem with the MCU's multiverse that has people convinced that multiverses suck just in general and that they're boring. Um, but they could be using it to, do creative stuff with, and, dip into different genres, and revitalize their stale and formulaic brand. We have movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once and the Spider-Verse movies that show people like multiverses can be fun and interesting. And
Right.
even those movies barely scratch the surface of what you could really do with the multiverse. I feel like DC is doing what I think Marvel should do, which is it's insane that they aren't doing it, which is making movies under a very specific like title and brand to differentiate it from the main universe stuff that are one-off isolated things that where like a creatives can just come in and do whatever they want because it's not connected to the main universe. So they don't have to worry about all that stuff. They can just make a really good isolated story. They need to start doing that in animation and live action. They need to just start letting creatives come in and create stuff. That's what the multiverse opens the door for.
Right.
Individual stories and individual universes that have nothing to do with anything else. Therefore, they can do whatever they want. They can touch any genre they want. They could make it R rated if they want. They can do whatever they want. But they just haven't done that, and it's sad to see because the door's open for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to Blue Eye Samurai. Have you watched any more? Or wait, I don't even know if you watched it yet.
I I am I I had sat down and like planned to watch it, and then some controversy came out, so now I'm like
Oh
not
yeah.
watching it.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
say that
yeah.
there's no reason for you to stop watching it because of that controversy.
Okay,
Because
okay,
he's one person of the hundreds of people who worked on the show.
okay.
Like, it's hard. I feel like not watching an animated show because one of the writers, who worked on it is, well, first and foremost, I feel like the biggest fear that could come from that is potentially the story having any potential like connection to um the writer Michael Green being a Zionist.
Mm.
But like the story is literally the about the complete opposite of what he seemingly believes.
Right, and it's like
So
I think that's the strangest part to me because it's like how like it just it feels paradoxical to me because
yeah,
it's like you the whole premise behind Blue Eye Samurai is so staunchly anti-colonial, and then you come out swinging with this. It's like, sir, did you even read what you wrote?
yeah,
It's
it's
interesting.
insane how much of the stuff we're going to be talking about that is directly connected to Israel and Palestine because just
Hmm.
people are weird. But yeah, um, you should still watch it. They're just all the other
Okay.
like there are too many people who worked on this who do not share those beliefs. Um, to not enjoy this beautiful show that deserves so much more, so many more seasons. And
Mm.
it's sad that this has happened because now it's potentially going to stop a lot of people from watching it, like you almost just did. And that
Yeah.
sucks because now that means this is probably, if that happens, won't get a season two. And that sucks because I love this show and I want so much more of it. Even the GOAT,
Right.
Hideo Kojima, creator of Metal Gear Solid, has watched it. It's so
Oh
good.
wow.
And then I read an article from the Gamers by that the website The Gamers by Jade King about how we need to show up for the type of shows that we want to see. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, the bad person said this, but Michael Green says in the States, animation is associated with either kids or comedy, like I said earlier. And Blue Eye
Right.
Samurai and Scavenger's Reign are two of the many examples of the type of amazing adult content we can get from the animation medium. And as Green also mentions in this article, uh, that's changing as the audience grows up and as people have much more sophisticated understanding of how sophisticated animation can be. People like us who grew up with animation and never stopped watching it will continue to crave more diversity within it for adults. Like adult animation always either needs to be very violent and crude or like
Hmm.
extremely comedic. And it's like we also just want like I talked about it with
Compelling
anime.
stories.
Like I talked about it with anime. We also just want like a shonen, super fun, going on adventures with the power of friendship story, but starring adults going through adult
Right.
situations without it necessarily needing to be crude and violent. So like yeah, he sucks,
Yeah.
but
It's like
the show's great.
yeah.
But speaking of which, Scavenger's Reign. You watch any more of it?
Nope.
Well, moving on. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, we will move on though. We'll talk about it once you see more. But Scavenger's Reign is good.
Yeah.
I finished it. It's great. It's so good. But we'll talk about that next time. Invincible. Don't have too much to say because I don't want to spoil anything. But the changes
Hmm.
being made to the story, I feel like gives us a lot more time with the characters that we don't get as much time with in the comics, and adds a lot more to their character arcs, and that's really fun.
Nice. That's always
There's
fun.
been a little bit of controversy happening with Invincible because there's a mid-season break, which is like all the people complaining, and I feel like people are mostly complaining because it's 8 episode series with a mid-season break at episode 4, and I get that a little bit, but most of the people complaining, I'm like, all like a lot of you are old enough to have existed to have just watched regular TV where mid-season breaks were like a regular thing. Why are you
Commonplace. Right.
like are you now so privileged with the with streaming services that you forgot that this used to be a thing? And to me, it's a good thing because like I tell you, I hate binging stuff. I don't like it. It makes
Right.
it harder for me to watch something when I have to watch it all at once. So I love that Invincible comes out once a week and that they're 40-minute episodes. And I'm glad that it's having a break. I'm more than willing to wait a month and a few days for the series to come back in January.
It's like the streaming era has poisoned our brains. You guys are so used to having everything everywhere all at once. But like it having to wait in between episodes for more episodes to come out, that builds character.
Yes. It also keeps people talking about it, and therefore it
Yeah.
gets more people watching it, and therefore it keeps the show afloat and able to make enough money to continue to get made.
Right. You
Um,
guys would never survive the era where it's like every anime had a bumper for commercials. You guys wouldn't survive that. You wouldn't. I'm sorry.
Full Metal Alchemist. Um, but yeah, also people um, are kind of shitting on animation, and it's like I'm in the middle because I'm like I agree. The animation, the reality is, and I feel like sometimes uh, people tend to overcorrect on the internet when it comes to defending something, where like people naturally want to defend the animators and the animation because animating is
Mhm.
hard. But just because something is hard to do doesn't mean that it can't be criticized. Like just because somebody put a lot of hard work into a piece of art doesn't mean I'm not allowed to dislike that art. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand a lot of people put a lot of hard work into Invincible. The animation, my personal opinion, it's okay. It's serviceable. What really pulls me into the show specifically is the incredible voice acting and the incredible writing. And the animation does just enough to hold my attention. And when it is good, it's not that good. It's still only good. It's not like incredible. But it can get there sometimes. The
Right.
the reality is the animation of Invincible to me personally has never been and still isn't, but hopefully potentially could become better, but isn't that good. And that's just the truth. And I think a lot of people are, because, the internet is a place of extremes. You either have people defending it too much or people trashing on it too hard, which is
Right.
unnecessary. But the reality is, Invincible animation isn't that good, but it's also not that bad. But it
Right.
could be better, and I would like it to be better. Um, that's it's this is another thing that is just down to the industry as a whole and how much it sucks. And I'm sure if they had the time that they needed, the animation in Invincible would be better. I'm certain, but I just don't think they do. And when I talk about how the animation isn't that good, I'm talking on several occasions. It will literally just be scenes where they're sliding a JPEG across the screen. I'm not joking. I'm sure you've seen clips,
I think I have, and it's like it's so silly.
and it's a little disappointing. And I'm not gonna lie, this isn't me trying to shit on the animators, because I'm sure that they have the talent to do better with more time. They just don't have it. And
Right.
because of that, the animation isn't that good. And I'm not gonna pretend like it's good just to make them feel better. Okay, I understand why it's not good, and I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think they can do better. They just don't have the time to do better, and because of that, animation is okay. But speaking of good animation, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Yes, man.
Oh my god. This was not. We're not going to get into spoilers yet. So
Right.
I'll tell you when we're getting to spoilers, but not yet. All right? For the people watching. Just in case you're afraid we're going to get into spoilers. I'll tell you. Um, so it's not what I was expecting at all,
Me neither.
but it was way better than I could have ever imagined.
Oh yeah.
It's less an adaptation and more of a reimagining, but also kind of a sequel. And I'll explain more of that when we get to spoilers. But you know, while it's good if you haven't seen the movie or comic, it's way better if you've seen at least one of them. But you, if you've seen both, you'll love it even more. Um, I do understand why this fact has left a lot of people disappointed with the show when they were expecting a one-on-one adaptation, and it was advertised as a one-on-one adaptation. So it's completely
Right.
understandable why people would be upset about this. Um, but don't blame Netflix or the co-writer Ben David Grabinski, because the original writer of the comic, Brian Lee O'Malley, was there right alongside them, making all these
Yep.
decisions. Not to say that you should attack him instead, because
Don't attack anybody.
attacking creators just because you don't like something they made is ridiculous. Offer respectful criticism and move on. But Brian Lee O'Malley made it even more clear that this show follows his vision on IG. He posted a story that I'm going to read. He said, "A few notes on Scott Pilgrim Takes Off from me, the original comic creator. No spoilers here. I personally wrote every script with B.D. Grabinski. I constantly rewrote dialogue to make it feel like Scott Pilgrim, but I couldn't have written it without Ben David. Also, nobody told us what to do. This was 100% our idea. The English dialogue was recorded first. All of the languages were dubbed later. We worked directly with the actors in each session, along with voice director Tony Oliver. I think the anime timeline is its own thing. It comments on the book and movie, but it isn't meant to replace them. It's just a new iteration that starts at the beginning again. I hope you can watch all 8 episodes before you decide how you feel. I know it's pretty different, and that might come as a shock, but it's all intended as in a spirit of fun. If you're confused or want more information, you can always read the books or watch the movie. Science Saru is the best. If you don't like it, I still appreciate you." And
Aw.
it is okay for people not to like this. I can
Yeah.
see certain things about the story that people wouldn't like. And I understand people. Well, I'm not gonna say that. That's a spoiler. I'll say that for later. But let's just give our non-spoiler review. How'd you like it?
I enjoyed every single bit of it. Again, it wasn't what I was expecting at all, but I'm honestly more glad for it.
Yeah, same.
I'm glad that it wasn't a one-to-one adaptation because like I feel like it's like for all that I could have gone and read the comic, you know? And like for it to be something so new but like new in a way that's like so obviously had like Brian Lee O'Malley's influence over it. It was just great. I enjoyed so much of it. Also, the animation was fantastic. The little references, the nods, the visual gags, just all of it was great.
Yeah, I also loved it. You know, while I still wouldn't call this an anime due to its noticeably Western writing,
Yeah.
the anime influence naturally comes across even clearer in animation. Um, in that vein, I mean, it has an amazing opening called "Bloom" by a Japanese rock band called Necrai Talkie, and the score
It's so nice.
by Joseph Trapanese, who worked with Daft Punk on Tron Legacy, and by the chiptune band. I don't know how to pronounce their name. Anna,
Anamanaguchi.
yes, who worked on the Scott Pilgrim game.
Yes.
That the soundtrack is incredible. Um,
It's fantastic.
I mean, the music's real good as to expect it. And overall, it's just a good time for new fans and old. And if you watch it before the movie or book, I advise checking out one or both of them afterwards and rewatching it to get the full experience. But yeah, now moving into spoilers. The first episode had me conflicted because it was running through content from the book at what's felt like breakneck speed, and I was confused as to
Yeah.
why it was moving so fast. But it was all made clear once Scott died
Yep.
that this show would ultimately not be following the storyline from the books or the movie at all. Scott is MIA for the vast majority of the show, and instead of him defeating Ramona's evil exes, Ramona has to reconcile with them herself to find out where Scott is. It turns the whole formula on its head and humanizes the exes
Right.
way more than the comic did by showing that Ramona ultimately was pretty toxic, even though becoming an
Yep.
incel wasn't the proper response to getting their feelings hurt. It's still like
It's understandable
she still
a little
wasn't a great
bit.
person.
Yeah.
And once they were able to just reconcile with her, they were all just like, all right, sure, cool. Um, yeah, it was a great way to get to know all the characters better, even characters that
Hmm.
didn't
Hmm.
date Ramona, like young Neil, Wallace, and Julie. I wish that we got more of Scott's sister and his parents, though. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only character we didn't really get a lot of, which was his sister. She was always just in a coffee shop, and I feel like we should got more of her. But
Definitely.
if you read the
Definitely.
comics, you get more
But
of
we
her
got
and his parents.
we got more young Neil, and I am always, as you can, my Discord name currently is young Neil for obvious reasons. He's my favorite. I love him, and I love that he took not necessarily a leading role, but more of a like, because in the movie he's in the movie like twice, and I don't know. I just like young Neil. I'm glad we got to see more of him.
Yeah, young Nail. He's yeah, he has a relatively big role in this show in comparison to the comic and the
Hmm.
movie, which is really interesting. Just learned a lot more about young Neil.
He's
Uh,
so silly. He's just a little guy.
yeah, and Knives goes on a similar arc that she does in the comic and the movie, but this time it's through music, and like she joins the band, and in this
Right.
universe, Scott stays on the band and doesn't just get replaced by young Neil. He stays on the band as a bassist, and Knives becomes the keyboardist, and yeah, that was really fun. Speaking of which, like Matthew Patel, of course, naturally got a lot more, just like all the exes did.
Right.
Which him defeating Gideon was very surprising. I
At the
wasn't
beginning
expecting.
was crazy.
I thought that he was going to lose that fight in the second episode, and it was like, no,
Yeah, me
Gideon's
too.
still the leader, but no, he won, and it was. I feel like that is what really, for me, solidified that this was going to be different. I feel like Scott's dead. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, they could bring him back easily, but
Right.
no, he was just
respawns at
gone
his house.
the whole time,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then what was it? I forget his name, the vegan dude.
Uh, um, Todd, I think.
Yeah,
Todd
Todd.
something.
Todd
Yeah.
discovered his bisexuality. You know.
Yeah, listen, because of like I was like the thing with Gideon, cool. Like all the stuff leading up to that, fine. That reveal was, I think, the most insane thing I've seen in a TV show lately,
Yeah.
ever.
You
Period.
want to talk
But it
about
was great.
insane? That some people are kind of there's two sides to it.
Hmm.
That the kiss that I don't know why I forgot all these characters' names, but the one voiced by Mae Whitman Katara, I forget her name. That kisses
Um,
Kim. I can't remember her
yeah,
name.
I can't remember
But
her
when
name
they
either.
but well, first
Yeah,
off, that kiss was very that kiss was either it's hard for me to truly describe that scene because there's two sides to it where people are like that was just made to like that was probably and I it was the story's written by two men, so they're like, oh, that was just made for the male gaze, and then no, it wasn't,
right.
because you go online, I think people forget that women are also attracted to women, and it's literally two women
Yeah,
kissing. So
yeah,
did you not think that women would also think it was hot? Because they did. And if you go on Twitter for 2 seconds,
yeah.
you'll find every other tweet. Literally, when I looked up Scott Pilgrim after it came out, every other tweet were lesbians talking about that kiss, and I was just like,
Right.
y'all need to shut up. I think because it was because in the original comic, Brian Lee O'Malley, who is 20 years ago, almost,
Right. Right.
when this story was written, um, kind of was like fetishizing lesbians in that story a lot, and also wrote Ramona's dated or yeah, I guess they dated as kind of like a phase type deal,
Yeah.
which also isn't necessarily like inaccurate to real life. I
Yeah.
feel like people forget that like people can experiment and then like realize that they aren't
That
into
they're
it.
not. Yeah.
Like guys can experiment with guys and then realize, okay, I'm not into that, and same with women, and like can just move on with their lives and be, like that can happen. But they
Right.
do change it in this story specifically that it wasn't just a phase, that she is into women, and that they actually dated, and then she, like all the other exes, just ran away without saying anything,
Right. Right.
which is an improvement for a lot of people. But
Yeah.
like yeah, like clearly he's learned his lesson and isn't just doing lesbian stuff out of fetishism, and is actually going out of his way to you know
To make it. Yeah. Yeah.
appeal to both
And
straight men who just like watching lesbians and lesbians who like watching lesbians. He's
right.
playing both sides,
Right. Right.
just like
He's
Ramon.
playing 4D chess. You guys don't get it. But I will say, what was I gonna say? It's funny that you bring up like that's most of the content that you've been seeing. I found out after watching Scott Pilgrim that I follow a lot of gay men on Twitter
Makes
because
sense.
Not Steven Stills. What's his name? What's his name?
They
The
didn't even get
skateboarding one.
into Steven being gay in this.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't.
He was too
The
busy focusing on music.
Yeah, he's real
Yeah,
though.
yeah, he had his
Uh
priorities straight.
he
Focused on his
did, he did,
career.
he did. Right. But no, the skateboarding guy, what's his name? He's played by one of the
Chris
Chris's.
Evans.
Yeah, Chris Evans guy.
He's like my favorite character. I can't
I
remember his name at the moment though.
I've seen so much questionable art of him over the past like couple days. They're really into him.
Of course they
They're
are.
really into him. Yeah. It's funny. But no, and then like the whole thing with like old Scott
Yeah.
and like Wallace's husband that works at Nintendo.
Yeah. I thought it was gonna be somebody very specific, but It's just his husband works at Nintendo.
It's Nintendo. The way they were setting it up, I thought it was gonna be like Scott. Like
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
exactly. I was like,
real.
some people thought it was gonna be Scott, and then they say he works at Nintendo. I was like, is this supposed to be like somebody specific? Like, is he dating Shigeru Miyamoto? Like, what's happening?
That would be insane.
But like, yeah, Future Scott is just stupid. He's an idiot.
Yep.
Because the whole
And
time Ramona was just like, she still wanted to be with him,
Right.
and he just like gave up. He's ridiculous.
He's a boy loser.
But yeah, this is basically, for all intents and purposes, a sequel
Yeah.
in reality. And Scott's just going back and making sure that, well, he didn't do it on purpose, but inadvertently making sure that they stay together this time. Hopefully.
Right.
So yeah, we don't need a sequel to Scott Pilgrim because this is the sequel.
We don't. This is.
This
Yes.
is the sequel, and I don't know why people thought they were. Well, actually, you know, because I recently watched somebody's reaction to it, and I now recognize why people thought there was going to be season 2, because it does end with Gideon going like, okay, now we need to do this plan, and it makes it seem like there's going to be more. But Brian Lee O'Malley announced like, no, that's it. That's all.
it.
That's the whole story.
And I'm glad that's it. Honestly, I'm glad that's it because like it's really nice. It's really self-contained. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, moving on to comics. I've read a lot of comics over the last week. So starting with Grimm, I reread the first 8 issues and caught up on the last 6. Grimm is about Jessica Harrow, who is dead, but her journey has only just begun.
Oh.
Discover the world of the afterlife, where Jessica is a Grimm, a Reaper, where she's essentially, tasked with ferrying the countless souls to the afterlife. But unlike the rest of the Reapers, she has no memory of how she died or how she got there. In order to figure that out, she has to find the actual Grim Reaper. It's like I said it before. It's eerily close to a story idea I have. So as I read this, I'm taking notes and I'm taking stuff and pulling it in and adding it to my story in ways that isn't just ripping it off. But yeah,
Right.
Batman Gargoyle. I've been excited for this story for a while. And it didn't disappoint me, this first issue. The story and art are by Raphael Grandpa, or is it Grandpa or Grandpa? I can't remember. But yeah, this story is putting a lot of focus on the corruption and inequality present in Gotham, with what seems to be either a reporter or like a social media manager at a newspaper that I can only assume is they don't say, but I think it's the Gotham Gazette because it's the most popular newspaper in that fictional city. They they don't risk losing their job. They straight up lose their job because they post an unauthorized video about the said corruption and inequality in the city. So they really bought that life. They really put the work in to get the job, then immediately abuse their power to put out a good message.
You know what? They're real for that though.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Batman hunts a serial killer who bests him twice, but leaves him alive for some reason, and whose murder spree is somehow connected to Bruce Wayne, a persona
Interesting.
that Batman is planning on completely destroying by faking his death and only being Batman, to Alfred's dismay. I'm really interested to see what the story goes, because that's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Low-key, even though I know obviously the story's going to end with him realizing that he needs Bruce Wayne and he could use Bruce Wayne to help Batman and also help the city. But I would actually like to read a story where Batman fakes Bruce Wayne's death, but of course somehow retains all the money. And just dedicates his existence to only being Batman. Right. I would actually love a story like that, where like he's done that
go hard.
And he's been doing it for a long time. Like he's 10 years in as only being Batman. That would be cool. And I would imagine the story would go him slowly learning how to be more than just Batman. I feel like that would be really dope. Spirit World. Xanthi breaks Constantine and Batgirl out of their mind control and goes to confront the Jade Court, where the soul-stealing collective waits to use Xanthi to open a door to the world of the living. In the latest Superman issue, it was full of a lot of surprises. So, spoiler alert for Superman issue 850. A new superpowered being was set free by Superman, who was then trapped in the same chains that person was held in, which uses their power against him. So he's having a hard time breaking out. Meanwhile, Lex is visited by his mother, who is supposed to be dead, but she was really just on a secluded island.
Mm.
And to my surprise, she brings with her his daughter, who I'm not sure if this is a new character or just something I didn't know about. But they apparently have some type of connection to Brainiac, which I'm interested to see what
Oh.
that is in the next issue. Fire and Ice. Fire invites a bunch of C tier or lower villains to her and Ice's salon in Smallville to record a reality show for social media, and Ice is not happy about it.
Oh no.
And Hawkgirl and Galaxy are trying to take a break from superheroics when the villain that they've been fighting for the last couple of issues, Volpeka, or Volkula, so it's spelled weird, it's pronounced weird, attacks them with a dragon from the Nth dimension. And Supergirl and Steel come to help take it down. And in between fighting, there's some fun lesbian banter between Natasha
Ooh,
and Galaxy,
my favorite.
with Natasha making fun of how Galaxy keeps staring at Supergirl's assets, and Supergirl saying that she notices that Natasha does it too. So that's fun. Speaking of Supergirl's assets, Power Girl. For those that don't get that joke, Power Girl is a version of Supergirl from a different dimension, who is infamous for her huge knockers and having a boob window in her costume, which thankfully people have finally gotten over, because they used to throw a fit over how quote unquote indecent it was back in the day. And then naturally, due to being a character whose defining feature is her big breast with a boob window, for a while in the comics, that was too much of the focus of her character and she was over sexualized. But now she's in a good spot where she's a person. She's more than her giant boobs, which are still gigantic. Like, I love that they didn't decide to change that, because it's like nobody cares. If anything, it just makes more people read the book and learn more about her as a person.
Right.
I'm not gonna hold you. That's for sure what got me into the character, like years ago. I'm not even going to pretend otherwise. I'm not gonna lie, but I did eventually just start to like the character. But speaking of which, Wonder Woman. No, I'm joking. This latest Wonder Woman. So I've been wanting to like really dive deep into some Wonder Woman comics. There are a couple that I'm going to get into. Greg Rucka's run, and there's a couple other runs that I have in like my watch list. But the current ongoing Wonder Woman comic is really good. So I've read the first 2 issues, and Amazon has killed 19 men for reasons unknown, resulting in all Amazonians being banned from America due to fear that they may be attempting to eradicate all men to make the whole world a paradise, like they call the mascara, which obviously is just some conservatives just projecting. And in the process, they separate families and kill anyone who resists. And naturally, Wonder Woman won't stand for this and is attempting to figure out why this Amazon did what she did and to put a stop to the violence. And it's so good. It's so you don't need to know anything about Wonder Woman to read this comic, as far as I can tell.
It sounds good.
I would highly suggest checking this comic out if you want to get into Wonder Woman, because it's so good. This is only the second Wonder Woman comic I've started reading. I've read the vast majority of Wonder Woman Earth 1. I haven't finished the last issue because the last issue just hasn't been hitting as much as the first 2 did. Volume.
Right.
The last volume just hasn't been hitting as much as the first 2. But yeah, this comic's so good. And there's this scene in the second issue where she's fighting literally an army. And it's crazy because they think they can stop her. Like, they're so confident. They're like, it's Wonder Woman, sure, but like we've seen her do wild. Like, they literally describe all the wild stuff that she's done, and then go like, yeah, but we can stop her. And naturally, they don't. And it's cool because So I'm not gonna lie. If you go back and watch my review of Wonder Woman 1984, which at the time I liked, I haven't rewatched it because it's a really long movie and I don't really care to rewatch it. Plus, Gal Gadot is a Zionist, so fuck her. And
no, for real.
There's a scene in that movie that's not subtly at all, extremely Zionist leaning that I didn't know at the time of watching it. But yeah, I just don't want to rewatch that movie, even though I did enjoy it for what it was. It wasn't spectacular, but I thought it was a fun time. A lot of people don't like that movie.
Right.
But at the time, I kind of just I had a very like I said, I haven't read a lot of Wonder Woman comics. I only watched her in cartoons and a few movies, and my understanding for a character was that the one part of her character that I latched onto that pulled me in it was interesting was that she is one of the few like like big popular like everybody knows who they are superheroes that
Right.
is willing to kill. But I in my mind, she was more willing to kill than she actually is. And if you were to go back and watch the episode, I talk about a notorious moment she has in the comics where she kills a character who was one of the villains in that movie, and by breaking his neck. And that is a notorious Wonder Woman like panel from the comics where she breaks his neck because it's literally the only way she can stop him. She's mind controlling Superman, or excuse me, he's mind controlling Superman, and she has to stop him. His name is Maxwell Lord, and
Uh-huh.
it's a very interesting conundrum. But in my mind, because of that, she was far more willing to kill than I actually thought she was. When the reality is,
Right.
like, you have to, like, she has to be in extremely dire straits to want to kill people. And
Yeah.
in this comic, at the very beginning, she gives her sword to an Amazon to take back to the Mascara and give to the queen, Nubia. Um, because she's like, I don't want this sword on me because if I have it on me, I don't know what I'm gonna do because these people are getting on my
Right.
nerves, and I don't want to kill nobody. And a lot of people are obsessed with her using a sword and shield, but the reality is, all she needs is a whip and her tiara to fight, and it's the whip really represents a very non, not violent. What's the word I'm looking for? Um, what's the word for not killing people? But it's a way to kill to fight
Non-lethal.
non-lethal. There it is. It's a very
Non-lethal.
non-lethal way for her to fight people. Granted, she uses it to pick up and throw tanks, and it's incredible. But yeah, it restrains people and forces them to tell the
Right.
truth. It's a very non-lethal way for her to fight. It's a really cool way for her to fight. And of course, she still uses a sword and shield when she needs to. But for the most part, when she's just fighting regular people, she doesn't need it. And also, she
Right.
uses her tiara like a boomerang, and it's cool as hell. Um, her tiara is basically the equivalent of a batarang for Wonder Woman,
Right.
and it can cut through almost anything. It literally cuts through a tank turret or
Oh wow.
whatever those things are called. Yeah, this comic's good. Action comics. I talked about before how there's this terrorist organization that are kind of like they're racist against aliens, and Clark Kent was interviewing one. In the middle interview, this person, Nora Stone, the leader of the terrorist organization Blue Earth, uses some kind of magic to drain Superman's powers and give it to an imposter to destroy the city and make it look like Superman is a monster to push her racist agenda against aliens.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting storytelling in action comics. I love when my comics get political. You know, unlike what people like to pretend,
Yeah.
comics have always been political, and
Oh yeah.
Wonder Woman is being extremely political right now, and so is action comics, and I'm absolutely loving it. These characters are at their best, and that previous Batman comic I was talking about was political as well. The what do they call them? The Trinity. Okay, I love them when they're political.
Right.
Speaking of politics, Alan Scott Green Lantern is a story about the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, that takes place in his heyday of the 40s, where he's afraid to work alongside the Justice Society of America in fear of them discovering that he's gay.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the most famous gay DC characters, and the oldest. So, Jay Garrick, The Flash. These three stories are stories that are kind of spinning off from a GSA comic where the Justice Society of America is like a super old superhero team from like around World War II, and Jay Garrick was the original Flash, and he is reunited with a new character that they're introducing to DC Universe, his daughter Judy, who is also a speedster named Boom, who was pulled from the timeline back in like the 40s or 50s, and now she returns to a world where there are dozens of speedsters, and or at least a dozen, and her parents are old, so I'm interested to see what that goes as well. And the last one in this trilogy of GSA comics, the Sandman, Wesley Dodds. The Sandman uses a sleep gas that he developed to fight crime, but in the process of creating it, he created several deadly variants. That were all housed in a journal that has now been stolen, and I would have burned. like, you have the solution. Just keep that part and delete the rest.
Right.
Last but not least, Kaiju number 8. It's good. But let me tell you something. I don't know what kind of deal the artist and writer struck with Viz and Shonen Jump, but they take very frequent couple week breaks, and this should be routine for all manga artists. Like every like 3 or 4 issues, they take like a week break, and I'm like, yes, do this all the time. This should be a thing. Or like I said before, they should be like American comics and release 1 chapter a month. It might annoy people, but a chapter a week is honestly insane. How the hell do they manage that? And also, it's hard to keep up with, especially when you're reading dozens of comics all at once and they all come out every week. Insanity.
Yeah, I bet.
That's extremely hard for me to keep up with. I do it, but I wish I didn't have to.
I do it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, moving on to TV and film. Speaking more on, Israel Palestine, Scream 7. Melissa Barrera was fired from Scream 7 due to being pro-Palestine. I'm going to read what she said verbatim, and this is from her IG story. She said, I have been actively looking for videos and information about the Palestine side for the last 2 weeks or so, following accounts, etc. Why? Because Western media only shows the other side. Why do that? I will let you deduce for yourself. Usually the algorithm on social media gets the gist. Well, my discovery page on IG will only show me videos showing and talking about the Israeli side. Censorship is very real. Palestinians know this. They know the world has been trying to make them invisible for decades. Keep sharing. Okay, low-key, this is kind of out of pocket maybe, but low-key, who uses Instagram to try and find out this type of information? I'm not gonna hold you.
No, for real.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Go to Twitter.
Yeah.
Like,
don't even go there, to be honest. Twitter can be kind of questionable.
No, with Twitter, you're going to find answers. IG is a primarily visual medium, so like trying to find this type of information on IG is insane to me.
Yeah, you get those watered down like
on Twitter, you're at least gonna have people talking about it.
Right.
Or you gotta watch a video and it's like, who knows if they're gonna, like, at least with words, you can immediately discern whether they're full of it or not. With a video, you have to actually wait and get into it before you can figure it out.
Right.
But yeah. She's single-handedly the most important character in the franchise right now. So without her, I don't know what they're going to do, but I know I won't be watching it. First, the studio, Spyglass, won't pay Neve Campbell, the actress who played Sidney Prescott, the main character of the franchise for the first 5 films, which she deserves, so she didn't appear in the 6th film. And now they fire Melissa because she called for peace and claimed that she was being, but people started claiming that she was being anti-Semitic and alluding to the stereotype of Jewish people controlling the media. And to that I say, anybody who thinks that's what she meant, you're actually the person alluding to that stereotype that Jewish people control the media.
Right.
Because that's not what she meant. But if that's what you assume she meant, that means that you think that.
Right. You're the problem.
And so Jenna Ortega has already left the movie. So now it's up to the rest of the cast. And I have a feeling that they will as well, especially Jasmine Savoy, who is a staunch activist based on her social media. She had like, I forget what you call it, but she like hid all of her posts, and for up until the strike ended, every day she posted the little image that was being used about the strike every day,
right?
And would number the days up until it ended, and up until both strikes ended. So yeah, I'm pretty sure she's gonna leave.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not watching this movie unless all of these people come back. Not so.
Yep. And that also means that new Thanksgiving horror movie that came out, don't watch that either, because that's a Spyglass film.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah,
yep.
I probably do watch Spyglass films and don't even know they're Spyglass. But other than Scream, I can't think of any. So I love Scream.
Yeah. Don't
mess up Scream's streak. They have a perfect streak of every single one of their movies being great. Okay? Don't ruin that, Spyglass. Okay? It's one of the most perfect horror franchises ever. And you're going to ruin it because you're siding with these people that are just massacring millions of people. It's ridiculous.
Right.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Moving on to Madam Web. Did you watch the trailer?
I did.
It looks bad. I don't like it.
It looked good to me, but maybe that's because I
uh,
don't have the content.
so to me, it looks like a bad fan film. I'm not gonna watch this unless it's like so bad it's funny and I go see it with some friends or something. But like they they could have made like this could have been like one of the first step to some big like Avengers Endgame type crossover with their Spider Man universe or whatever. But they just messed it up. It's weird how bad they messed it up when it's Spider Man. Everybody loves Spider Man. All you had to do was make a good Spider Man movie, but they keep making a movie about the villains, which like isn't a bad idea because Spider Man does have a bunch of interesting villains that can hold their own story, especially Venom. And the right
Right.
team could tell incredible stories with them. They just haven't done that. They've all been bad.
Yeah.
And they could have made a Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Punk, Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, Spider-Ham, and Spider-Mech movies by now. But they haven't.
Mm.
But they need to. I think um they announced that they're working on a Spider-Man 29 movie finally, which is like I mean,
Hmm.
should have been done that. But like, what is this? Get shit together, Sony. It's Spider-Man. It's
Yeah.
such an easy slam dunk. But moving on to live action Zelda. Uh, in the last episode, I forgot to talk about the director and his filmography. But I'm glad I didn't because it's much more interesting than I first thought it was. The director, Wes
Mm.
Ball, has worked on the Maze Runner trilogy and the upcoming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That is where the correlation comes in that I talked about that we never actually got to talk about. And the Maze Runner films had a mixed review. It has mixed reviews, but Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes looks good. So that gives me a bit of hope that at the very least we can
Yeah.
expect a visual feast based on the director's previous work.
Hmm.
But then, my personal favorite Zelda YouTuber, Zeldic, posted a video that changes everything. In
Mm.
2013, 13 years ago,
Hmm.
Wes Ball tweeted, "Since I could never even hope to have the chance to direct it, the next big mocap Avatar like movie should be The Legend of Zelda."
Ooh.
Which is random as hell, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But now he's directing The Legend of Zelda. And it turns out that he has been obsessed with mocap and lifelike animation. Sorry about that. I don't know what the hell that was.
No, you're good.
Since then, uh, he's dipped his toes into that style of filmmaking with a CGI short film titled Ruins, and The Mouse Guard, which was supposed to be a feature-length film, but was
Oh.
canceled in April 2019 by Disney, 2 weeks before
Oh.
production began. Uh, there was a proof of concept made, however, that looks beautiful and has a great mocap fight scene. Um, so this movie being live action doesn't bother me as much as it did before. If he's directly comparing it to Avatar, which is basically an animated movie for all intents and purposes, with how much of it is CGI and how little they use like live action people, especially in the second movie. The second movie is damn near all Navi, all giant blue people, and CGI
Right.
backgrounds and stuff. So it's basically just mocap and animation. That's that second movie. And if this movie is anything like that, it probably will be an animated Zelda movie. But what I assume it will be like, and what I think is the maybe the best case scenario is that it
Hmm.
will use some incredible CG for the more outlandish character designs, but the movie will seamlessly combine practical creature design with practical sets that and CGI mocap capped characters
Mm.
to create a beautiful world.
I hope so.
Hyrule. So the more I hear, the more I'm like, you know what? I'm excited. I want this. This sounds good.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to video games. We have Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. Rocksteady is doing a video series about the game development, and the first episode shows off the story and gameplay. The traversal looks good, but combat looks trash. It's just nobody wanted this. Nobody said, you know what? You make a Suicide Squad game, but let's have all of them just use guns. Let's have King Shark just use a gun Let's have Captain
It's lame.
Boomerang, the man who's known for using boomerangs, just use
It's
a
in the
gun.
name.
He
Lame.
barely uses boomerangs, but what he does have is this traversal that uses this Speed Force gauntlet that gives him slight flash powers and a little bit of super speed. And the
Hmm.
way his traversal works makes me go, Rocksteady, make a flash game, please. They have the skills based on what they just did with Captain Boomerang. If you look at his traversal in that game, he just basically he's kind of the Flash but with the boomerang. Okay, I need this in my life. Give me a Flash game. The Flash is like number one on my list of superhero games. I want a Flash game so bad. But yeah, it sucks that every character plays the exact same. I heard a rumor that Rocksteady wanted to make a Superman game, but their pitch was rejected, and they were basically forced to make this game because
No,
it takes
boo.
place in a beautiful looking metropolis that is supposedly twice as big as Arkham Knight's map. But that's
Hmm.
just a theory. But it feels like it's true because I don't see Rocksteady going, you know what? You know what we should do? Make a live service game after making three first three story focused Batman games. Let's make a new superhero game, but let's make it live service. I doubt that that is what they decided. And it also came out
Right.
recently that WB is actively focusing more on live service games, which will be the death of them.
Yeah.
WB Games. This would be the death of their games division if they do this. Please, I beg of you, make single player superhero games and stop being weird.
Mm.
This should have been a Superman game, and it being double the size of Arkham Knight map makes sense because it's Superman. He's gonna fly everywhere real fast.
Yeah.
I want a Superman game too. Superman's also up there. He's top 5 of the like superhero video games I want. It's Flash, like Daredevil, Superman, uh, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and like Thor. And we're getting a Wonder Woman game, so I don't need to put her on that list anymore.
Right.
I'm excited for that. I hope that's good. Hopefully they don't mess that one up.
Yeah.
It sounds like it'll be good.
Yeah.
It's supposedly a game they compared it to is God of War, which I feel like makes sense. So
Hmm.
if it's anything like God of War, oh, it'll be good in terms of gameplay, at the very least. But yeah, speaking of PlayStation games, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is releasing January 19th as a $10 upgrade for owners of the original game, but full price for new players. The most obvious changes will be, graphical enhancements, even though they're
Right.
barely noticeable because the game looked beautiful on PS4. And honestly, it's a testament to just how great that game is that you can barely tell the difference between the two.
Hmm.
Faster loading and DualSense controller integration. And the remaster also adds guitar free play mode that allows you to mess around with the guitar without having to go to the specific segments in the game where you play the guitar.
Oh, nice.
There's also a no return mode, a roguelike survival mode designed to let players prove their mettle in randomized encounters and lost
Ooh.
levels. These lost levels are aren't fully finished levels, but rather early
Hmm.
development slices that they added for a little something extra. And these lost levels and the main game cutscenes will have developer commentary. I'll try to finally finish my second playthrough when this comes out. I'll probably have to like try to actively play it every day to try and finish it, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth comes out like a week after or something like that, and then Persona 3 Reload comes out the month after that.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I'll try and play it then. Maybe I won't have time. But I understand why people are upset by this because they perceive this as well, one the price $10 upgrade. I think nobody's upset at that. That makes sense. That's okay. But it being full price for new players is like, you could have had it. You could have made it $50. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like stuff like this doesn't bother me because it's like all you got to do is put your money where your mouth is, and if you really don't like it, don't buy it.
Right.
But if you buy it, then like, shut up. And
Right. It's like, what's the point?
they're also like capitalizing on the series, and people who maybe after the series played the remake of the first one, which people thought was unnecessary, which um you know naturally I've been wanting a remaster of this game forever because one thing they add that
Right.
I don't know if I mentioned it is faster load times. Yeah, I did mention it.
Oh. Yeah,
Which
you
is
did.
like the load times were incredible for what it was on the PS4, but faster load times on PS5 means that it's going to load so much faster, and that's all I've been waiting for. That's worth the $10 enough for me. but
Right.
but yeah, like I said, I understand why people are upset. Since they remade the first game, and are still working on the multiplayer expansion, which has been having a tumultuous development at the moment.
So
Uh, but they straight up, you know what? I meant to double check this. Let me double check this before I make this claim.
okay.
Okay, I'm not wrong. They straight up announced that they're working on a brand new single player game, like a new original IP.
Oh
So
wow.
the problem that the average consumer has when it comes to game development is that one, they don't understand how it works. I'm not gonna pretend to be to know everything about game development, but I know more than the average person. And the reality is, Naughty Dog is a team that has been expanding and expanding and expanding over the decades, and they're a
Mm-hmm.
gigantic team now. They have a big enough team to be able to work on more than one thing at once. So they were likely working on this remaster, factions, and their brand new game all at once. And now the
Oh
remaster,
wow.
remaster's done. So those people are going to go and be allocated to either factions or the brand new game. So it's like, guys, they aren't just making The Last of Us. They're working on other things behind the scenes. They just haven't revealed anything yet, but they have announced it. They've said that they're working on something new. So calm down. I'm sure, just like Rockstar with GTA 6, Naughty Dog is going to shut everybody up once their next game comes out, and it's going to reaffirm why they're great and why it took so long. Game development takes
Mm,
time, and also
it does.
teams are bigger than you think sometimes, and are working on more than one thing. It That's just how it works. But on a more
Yeah.
serious note, um, in light of this re-release, a conversation I wasn't privy to back when the game first came out has resurfaced, and that's the intentional parallels between the conflict depicted in The Last of Us Part Two and the real life conflict between Israel and Palestine. I just
Oh.
pronounced that weird. I don't know why my mouth did that. Um, so there's a Vice article I would suggest reading by Emmanuel Myberg that describes these
Mm.
parallels, titled "The Not So Hidden Israeli Politics of The Last of Us Part 2." So the creative director of the game, Neil Druckmann, is of Israeli descent. He was born
Mm.
and raised in the West Bank before being moved to the U.S. by his parents. So he grew up
Mm-hmm.
in a household that kept tabs on this conflict, and as a result, drew from it for the story of this game. Um,
Right.
in The Last of Us Part Two, there are two groups that very clearly resemble Israel and Palestine: the Washington Liberation Front and the Seraphites. The WLF. Sorry, my neighbors be loud as hell sometimes. Um,
No worries.
But where was I? The WLF, or Wolves as they're called in the game, rebelled against the previous regime and took over Seattle, similar to the Zionists who fought against British rule. And the Seraphites, or Scars, are a religious group that are being discriminated against by the Wolves, causing conflict. And the problem is that the Last of Us takes a centrist approach to this conflict,
Mm-hmm.
an attempt to show the cycle of violence. And as Myberg expertly puts it, a cycle of violence is a tempting way to interpret this conflict, or any conflict, because it signals careful nuance while quietly squashing more difficult conversations.
Right.
This common centrist position on violent conflict, while better than absolute dehumanization, is coincidentally a worldview that allows conflicts to drag on forever. He continues to say that cycles of violence are a poor way to understand a conflict in a meaningful way, especially if one is interested in finding a solution. Just as the fantasy of escaping violence by simply walking away from it is one that only those with the means to do so can entertain, the myth of the cycle of
Right.
violence is one that benefits the side that can survive the status quo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Myberg still compliments the game for its strong and thought provoking storytelling, but ultimately he criticizes it for being too centrist and accepting intense hate that is universal as a fact of life rather than examining where and why this behavior is learned. I think I don't know if I mentioned it before, but Myberg is also Israeli. Um, this is a fiction story that takes inspiration from an ongoing real life conflict, so it's easy to, when you hear something like this, similar to with not similar because the reality is Blue Eye Samurai, Michael Green is a Zionist, but it's easy to
Right.
potentially assume that the people working on this are Zionists. But this is a story that's taking inspiration from it. It's not necessarily meant to be a direct copy. It's not meant to be
Right.
that conflict. It's just meant to be taking something that he is directly connected to as an Israeli person and incorporated in his work. So I
Right.
don't want people to jump to the conclusion that Neil Druckmann is a Zionist based on this, but I also, of course, don't want to make the mistake of putting him and his team on a pedestal. But I want to leave the door open for them to make a clear statement about the situation if they haven't already, because I'm not sure, before we all jump to conclusions. All right.
Mm.
Plus, I think that they did have a noble goal with this story, but ultimately it falls flat because they don't offer a solution. Instead, just go the world and people suck. That's how like The Last of Us Part 2 is an overwhelmingly very cynical story. And Druckmann admitted to having this intense feeling of hate after seeing a video of the 2000 mob killing of Israeli soldiers in Ramallah, and his disgust at his want for revenge in that moment was his inspiration for the first game, and
Right.
the themes of that very first game. And Myberg says that it's clearly coming from an emotional, authentic, and self-examining place on Neil's part. But he kind of overcorrects, and by taking this very centrist point of view.
Right.
But even before I read this article, I started to get more of a firm grasp on the conflict between Israel and Palestine. But rooting it in a story that I love, and it really puts it into perspective, and can hopefully do the same for other people if people have played that game, and can kind of use that comparison to help them further understand this conflict and what's going on. It did that for me. And like I said, also this game is about a world ravaged by a deadly pandemic that released during a deadly pandemic, and then coincidentally is re-releasing when this war that's been going on for decades is now like in the public eye. It's unfortunate that there's I was watching some people talk about this on YouTube, and one of them said that there's never a good time for this game to come out because this game is just sad.
Yeah.
It's just a big downer overall. It's why, even though I didn't feel this way at first, I hope that we get a third game. Because the first game was more evenly balanced between light and dark, whereas part 2 is kind of overwhelmingly dour. And I need a third game that, while dark, is more light than the previous 2 games to cap off the franchise. Part 2 was essentially the Empire Strike Back. Everybody's down in their luck. It's the second act low point, and now I need a third act triumph. I need a third game that gives us all a lot more hope overall with of the world, instead of just going everything sucks. I still do love The Last of Us Part 2 though. It's my favorite of the 2 games so far. It's real good. But yeah, it definitely helps me put that whole conflict in perspective and have a better understanding of it, which I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what I'll notice now that I have this information when I go back to play it when this comes out. But before we get into the last thing, Persona 3 Reload, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you think that we're going to get a super duper Persona 3 Reload that adds the things that they might not have when it comes out? Like the female protagonist?
I highly doubt it.
I do too, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It wouldn't be surprised, absolutely, but I highly doubt it. Like,
because they've been doing it. They've been doing it every game since Persona 3. So
right.
Did they do
but
it?
But the thing is, they did not. No, well, okay. Persona 2 is complicated in that way because there's 2 Persona 2s.
Yeah, I've heard.
There's yeah, Innocent Sin, and then I forgot the name of the other one. But it started with 3, and happened in 4, happened in 5. But the thing is with Reload is that it's a remake, and so I'm like
doing an extra release of a
hesitant.
remake is weird because it's like if you're gonna do that, you might as well have just done it all at once. But I would argue the same for all the other Persona games. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. But I just want to cap this off here. And have you played Mario RPG? And if you have, what do you think?
Oh my goodness! Listen, I'm not gonna gush about it too much, but this Mario RPG remake is probably one of the best remakes I've played ever in my entire life. It's completely faithful in a way that's like not a hindrance to the player. The soundtrack is great. The graphics are fantastic. Like it has all the heart of the original Mario RPG while still being its own thing that could stand on its own. I got my cousin who doesn't like RPGs period to play through the entire game in 2 days. That's how good this remake is. And it gives me a lot, yeah. Yeah, it gives me a lot of hope for the Thousand Year Door remake that comes out next year, because if they remade Mario RPG and made it this good, I know the Thousand Year Door remake is going to go insane. And like there's been like the quality of life
Forgot they
changes
were
are
remaking
great.
that.
The game's a lot, huh?
I forgot they
Yeah,
were
Thousand
remaking
Year
that.
Door. I'm excited.
Nintendo started to get
I'm
real
excited.
remake happy. I think
Yeah,
even to remake
yeah.
A Link to the Past.
No, well they technically did. They technically did. Um, with A Link Between Worlds, but I know it's not the same. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't be happier with this remake. It's a great remake. If you haven't played it or still on the fence, play it. If you've been wanting to get into Mario RPG and weren't sure because of, like the old style RPG mechanics, play the remake. The remake is definitely like beginner and intro friendly. It's just good. It's so good. It looks good. It plays good. I love the new rendered cutscenes. That's, I think, my favorite part. It adds so much charm to it.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's good.
It's so good. It's so good.
It looks good.
So good.
Um, but yeah, that's all I got. If you don't have anything else.
I have a thing actually. So I learned recently about the existence of a new Metroidvania. As one does. Cuz I was
Is it Mariachi?
It is Mariachi Legends.
That's
How'd
funny
you know?
because I remember I saw the trailer. It popped up on my feed on Instagram, and I was like, "Damn, this looks good." And then
Me too.
but I hadn't seen the gameplay until earlier today. Actually, I saw the gameplay because I was like, because that first trailer they didn't show any gameplay. It was just an animated cinematic. But then they finally released some gameplay, and I'm like, "Man, this looks cool."
Yeah, I saw they had released another ad with gameplay in it. And I saw it and I was like, this looks like Blasphemous. I need to know more about it immediately, right now.
Man, Metroidvanias are
And
making a comeback. I can't wait for the next
I'm so glad.
actual Metroid.
I'm so glad.
And also, Metroidvanias are back in such a big way. Konami, I swear to God, if you don't take advantage of this and make a new 2D Castlevania, I swear to God.
Please. Or I would even be happy with a Symphony of the Night remake. Like, to be honest.
Exactly. At the very least, if you're not going to make new games, at least remake the old ones that people love. Like they're doing with Metal Gear
like,
and Silent Hill. So
yeah, because like Castlevania has collections of the older games on Switch. That's how I played like Bloodlines and Circle of the Moon and Order of all that stuff. So it's like, release the people want to play them. Release the games. Trying to play Symphony of the Night nowadays is like trying to pull teeth. It sucks because that's one of the best Castlevania games. IMO. I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, we need a new Castlevania. It's been too long.
But yeah, you have anything else to say about Mariachi?
No, I'm just excited for it to come out.
Yeah, it looks good. It's a Mexican Metroidvania. So there's a lot of like Mexican culture in it. It's cool.
Yep, there's a lot of food culture, or like food-based culture in there too, which is not something you see in games.
I didn't watch
like this.
the full gameplay trailer because I watched part of it, and then I was like, oh, but it was on Instagram, so I was like, okay, well, I have to watch this on YouTube, but I didn't watch it yet, so I'm gonna watch it after this.
Right, I read a article about it that like went in more depth. I'll send that to you. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm sad that it comes out next year. I want to play it now.
Yeah. Well, as always, my at is below me. Aiara's at is below them. Muskrat's at below that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Peace.
See ya.